Hey there, welcome in. With the completion of Sanctuary Hills, we now arrive at the next part of our build series here at Red Rocket Truck Stop. If the game looks a little bit different than it did in some of my previous videos, that is because I have recently made the transfer to PC from Xbox. Now this is not me saying that I'll never do another Xbox build, because I have grown to love and cherish building on console, but it has been kinda nice seeing how the other half lives on PC so far. The first order of business here at this settlement, similar to Sanctuary, is setting up some sort of perimeter wall. The only couple initial plans or ideas going into it was I know I wanted an exit leading to that kind of mole rat den out to the backside of the settlement, and then over here where these billboards are is like the perfect spot for some sort of defense post or location. The view to this road leading up to the settlement is perfect for one. I'd like you to keep in mind for this series that even though I'll most likely have separate saves for most, if not all, of the settlements I make, that they are definitely connected and in the same kind of world or map. With that in mind, for example, for the fencing for this settlement, it is very akin to the fence that I made over in Sanctuary, just a little bit more scrappy. For that reason, I will probably skip through most of the fence building process, as it's pretty much the same thing as that. If you'd like a more detailed kind of explanation, go check out part 1 of Sanctuary, but for now, we're just gonna, with the power of editing, skip right through all that. Here is the fence, pretty much finished. I still need to add a few like gap fillers and other scrap along the sides, but this is a really good start and a really good perimeter to the settlement we're building in. The plan for this settlement is going to be like a scrapyard of sorts, so imagine a lot more scrap and clutter along the fence line for sure. I also want to add some signage out front here, one above the gate and one on that like gas price board, make it like scrap prices probably. This settlement will really start coming to life once I can start adding like some stacked cars and junk piles, but for this part we are mostly focusing on some of the structural parts of the settlement, similar to like I did for Sanctuary's videos. I really like the couple guard posts and defense posts I put alongside. I have this cool like dumpster looking one, which is super scrappy looking, and then like I mentioned earlier, this spot by the billboards is the perfect spot for a guard post. I found this really cool like car style one in one of my mods, and it actually nestled perfectly between these hedges and gave us the perfect defense post for the settlement. The first structure I wanted to work on was like a main storage warehouse. So I started off with the foundation. Don't mind this little step, I changed it out for a ramp later. I threw on some walls from CVC, and then this is where I got to start kind of messing with some of the PC controls and options with place everywhere. This was a bit of a learning curve for me at first, but I'm starting to get the hang of it, I think. It's definitely easier than like the place anywhere interface on console, but some of the features definitely gave me a bit of a hard time. Like rotating objects is very specific to like what world axis you're on. I know a lot of like science and math mumbo jumbo that I was also not prepared for, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it. I watched a couple videos that helped me with this, but I'm still kind of at a loss in figuring it out. If anyone has any tips for this, let me know. But basically, I saw these kind of window wall pieces, and I thought they would kind of mind the gap perfectly for what I wanted for the structure. And they really did. It just took me absolutely forever to get it to rotate right. Once I finally got it in, I really liked how it looked. I've never seen these windows placed kind of vertically like this, so it was some different and fun for me for sure. With the rest of the walls and the roof placed, most of these pieces were from CVC by the way, I found these really cool pillars from the mod the Kuro Tab, and I liked the kind of tires and scrappy look they gave. I thought it'd be good for the settlement, but they were a bit too tall. So what I did was I placed them where I wanted them, and then I downsized them a few times using place everywhere, and it ended up being the perfect fit. So I just added one of those on each side, and I thought it looked really great. The next couple things I threw together were like this little fire pit. This was mostly made with some like bonfire and road pile pieces from CVC, and then I stacked those and layered those on top of this planter from the mod Snappy House kit. I have a really good idea for this kind of fire pit later when I start decorating, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. I also added a couple different just stacked cars and other deco just to try to get a feel of how I wanted the settlement to look. I sized down this crane and I thought it fit this area pretty well. Over past the warehouse, I messed around with a power utility building of sorts. I threw this red painted windmill from the Kuro Tab and a generator on this truck that was already here, and I think it looks cool. I want to throw some fencing and other clutter around it, but this is a good placeholder for now. Along the backside of the building, totally ignore that staircase is just a placeholder so I can get up and down easier. I fully intend on leaving this ladder as roof access. Yes, I am fully aware that settlers will not be able to use said ladder, and no, I absolutely do not care. It looks cool. I plan on having some living spaces for the settlers that run the scrapyard up here. Think of a co-op of sorts. And the main contender for building up here was the mod USO Wasteland. It has been on my list forever. I've always wanted it and it has never been available on console to my knowledge, so I used this a lot for these shacks up here. To start, I wanted to figure out a good layout or floor plan up here. I wanted to know exactly how much kind of level space I had to work with. A good tip if you're a bit OCD like me when it comes to laying out some different buildings and stuff is to use the snapping feature to your advantage. For example, I wanted a shack exactly the same distance and equal parts away from the first one, so I used a spacer or filler piece in the middle there, that way I could snap one the exact same distance away. And I used the same kind of concept to get one along this way by replacing that spacer piece and adding another, and then I went back as far as I could this way before the floor got kind of uneven, and then I deleted those spacer pieces. I hope that kind of makes sense and didn't just sound like the ramblings of a crazed settlement builder, but for me it works. The next part of this process was really just mixing and matching a bunch of different wall pieces together until I was happy with how it looked. I mostly started with woodies here because it was the mod I was most excited to use. This process is usually pretty chaotic and not worth recording all the way because I add and delete a bunch of stuff. Even a lot of what you see in this video is subject to change because I like to mess with it a lot. I started with the first floor, added this kind of cool staircase from woodies, and then I moved on to a different mod just to start kind of filling in some of the gaps and replacing some of the pieces I didn't like. I really liked the red and white painted wood options in the Kuro Tab. The Kuro Tab is another mod that I haven't been able to get to work on console in a while, so I definitely wanted to utilize it here. I have missed it. It's one of my favorite building mods, honestly. These red and white painted options were a really good fit for Red Rocket itself and really helped blend these shacks into the rest of the settlement. Eventually, I got to the point where I was pretty much happy with the start of it. Obviously, this needs a lot more decoration and even some debris to kind of help blend it in onto the roof itself, but for now, this was a really good place to start and I was happy with how it looked. It's not much, but it's just enough space for the 2 or 3 settlers that are going to run this place to live comfortably in. The next thing I added were a couple of these really cool arbor shack pieces from the mod Grounded. Now these took me way too long to find in my build menu. Mod users, I'm sure you also understand this struggle well, but yes, they are from Grounded and they're really cool grass covered vanilla shack pieces. My goal for these here is to make little yards to put crops in, make it look like sodded additions they added up here, that way they could actually plant things. Once I add a bunch of grass and crops to these, they'll look a little less out of place, trust me, but for now I wanted to get those down. I also threw on a couple of these shutters and decorative pieces from woodies just to fill in some space and finish off these shacks up here for now. The only other thing kind of structurally that I added for this part is a little trade caravan area up at the entrance here. I used the caravan post and then built up the fence a little behind it, and then decided to add a little prefab from CVC next to it just to add some bedding or space for the traders to kind of stay. With that, it brings us to a pretty good place to conclude this video for now. Everything structurally is pretty much placed. I do see a lot of this build being decoration and clutter mostly, so expect to see a couple streams here soon where I start to kind of really decorate and put together this place. I have at least one more of these style videos planned where I cover some more utility things we need to add, like water and a bathroom, as well as a couple other little things, but for the most part, I think this settlement will come together pretty quickly. Be sure to keep an eye out here on the channel and over on Twitch for more. Also, be sure to go check out the Sanctuary Final Tour if you haven't watched it yet. I'm really happy with that one. If you have any questions or feedback, as always, let me know down in the comments. But for now, I will catch you guys in the next one.